Well, hi and welcome back to the Healthy Metal Hippie. Today we are here with my friend Janet, and she is a relationship and well-being consultant. She's got over 20 years experience in education and over 10 years as a therapist. And Janet, I am so excited for you to be here today and share all of your knowledge.
Hello. Hello. I hope you, all of my knowledge, I can only give you what I know in this present moment because I'm living always on a point of my own ignorance. The more that I learn, the more that I realize that I don't know lots of things.
I think the Beatles said that, right? The farther you
Mm,
travel, the less you know. And
mm,
I actually think about
yeah.
that a lot because it's when you really get down to pondering it, it's shocking how much we really don't know. So,
Mm,
and there's more and more to explore every single day.
yeah, that's true. I always have in my mind this sort of imagination of a really large jar and me being just one grain of rice in it. And that's me and my knowledge and my understanding and my perspectives upon life. And yet, if we add everybody in the world in that jar, there's a heck of a lot. And all the information I feel, I like to balance myself out by recognizing that I am one grain of sand in a endless beach.
Yeah. And it is a good way to think about it. I think we forget about it a lot, but I think we become also more aware of it as we get older. I think, and maybe it's right now because, 13-year-old, he knows a heck of a lot.
Mm. Well, I probably knew it all at that age.
Yeah, you did, but that's because you're you and you're magical.
Well, no, I thought I knew it all, but I didn't really know it all. And the minute you think you know it all, you're actually limiting yourself to let anything else in.
That's very true. For new perspectives and new ideas, you'll never get it when you close yourself off that way. Well, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about what you do? Because there's a lot.
Yeah, I seem to have done quite a lot. I spent a good 20 years in education, teaching, of which I loved and enjoyed until I got to the point where I recognised everything I did still wasn't enough. And after all those years, still things were being changed, even things. And I reached a point where I knew things were going to change. And then I started to train as a counsellor at night school. I just felt this energetic shift within me. And in the October of the half term, my son-in-law suddenly died. And from that point, I thought I couldn't give any more of my energy into teaching. So I left at the Christmas time. I was trying to get to the end of the year, but I'd already left, and it wasn't really fair for the children for me not to be fully invested in them as the primary caregiver in that moment. And so then I could train as a child counsellor and go on to work in schools. And then from that, I worked at Alderhay Hospital in the Alder Centre, which was the centre for child bereavement. So anybody affected by child death. And I had staff clients as well, all ranges from nurses to consultants, etc. And then I decided to investigate couples, and I did a degree in couples counselling with a focus on couples and a focus on grief because that was my speciality at the time. And from there, I got a real interest in relationships because I changed my whole life around. I divorced my husband. It was just like a crazy time. It was like, God help us, I need to be me. Due to being adopted, I was always on the search for being me. Because when you're adopted, there's a shadow side, there's a dark side of you that you don't know about. It's in the distance. It's all those possibilities of who you could be and where you're from. So I didn't really know anything about that. So this search was right. I'm going to change my life around, change everything. And in that relationship, this is the key here for me. In that relationship breakup, it opened up space for another relationship, and that relationship with was which I didn't know at the time. He was a sex and porn addict or a compulsive user of porn. And being a Catholic school, upbringing of Catholic, I never really talked about sex. I was very limited in my knowledge and understanding about sex, porn, anything like that. Never watched porn, never wanted to.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, I was in a world that I didn't really understand and didn't really know. So from that perspective, I was learning at the same time as being in a very vulnerable position, because it triggered for me all my abandonment issues from adoption, which I didn't know about, I didn't know existed, and all this. So that was my quest then to work out what was going on. And so now I'm psychosexually trained, so I can understand the behaviours and the reasons behind the sex and the porn and being drawn into that. And I now understand it as a point. It offers a point of evolution for the person in the relationship, but it doesn't always feel like that at the time. But that's where I've got to with it, is to balance it out and see the advantages and the disadvantages. So so I've spent then 10 years in therapy. And I guess it's useful because I was like counselling myself all the time, all the way through that.
Yeah.
This point right now, I am about to move into a more holistic view of well-being and relationships, because I recognise that therapy just isn't enough. It's more the understanding and the education around intergenerational trauma, the trauma that I've been handed down from my ancestors. And also with that is the understanding of relationship energetics, which is the balance, the push-pull balance, the masculine, feminine, as it's called as well, which it underlies every single relationship. Looking at those things, you can unpick your own trauma cycles and know what it is that you've got that you might not want to pass down to your children.
Yeah.
So for me, the value of stewardship is a key value, because I don't believe in holding things in. I believe in sharing it for the good of others and passing it on.
Yeah. I think a lot of us probably have more generational trauma than we even know. And over the last couple of years, I've learned a little bit about it, and it is a big thing to try and untangle yourself and really put together all those pieces. I think
Mm.
I need to come for a few sessions with you because I know that we have it, and it's been very interesting because learning about it and then seeing these themes follow from like my mom and my sister and me, but also we think further back and everything else.
Mm.
It's very, very interesting. And then plus your own little bits that you pick up.
Mm.
And you're right. I think when you think about your own children, there's a lot of that you don't want to pass on, breaking
Yeah.
that cycle.
Grandchildren as well. Yeah, because it is a cycle, and you'll find that there'll be a theme. My theme was abandonment. So I have unknowingly abandoned my children. I haven't purposefully abandoned them. It's because it's in my generational ancestral line of abandonment. So, which was an Irish background, and if you think about the history of the Irish and the children's like workhouses and the shame on women who fell pregnant out of wedlock and the near torture of a lot of those families, that for my mum, being Irish, to have a child out of wedlock was incredibly shameful. And so I not only inherit all that, but it's the gestation emotions I've also have owned as being mine, like being strapped in to not be being seen.
Right.
So they're the feelings. So I haven't had, whereas if you were nurturing a baby and you were happy and it was loving and you've got a loving family around you, my mum didn't have that.
Right.
So she had the not being seen and having to be strapped down and feeling the shame of me, and then having to giving me away at birth. So I've had trauma really from very early on in different ways. And I've spent a lot of time going through all of that and understanding it for myself. And when I work with clients, they don't realise that they're holding some emotions that aren't theirs. They might be the mother's emotions through the gestation period. Could be the emotions of another family member that a grandparent or a great grandparent that they might be holding on to, because if the emotion hasn't been fully expressed in the energy field, it will continue through the family system until it seeks an acknowledgement and a balancing in the family system. That's what I've come to learn, which has been useful for my own understanding and useful for the clients that I work with.
Yeah, I know just in our own groups, because you are one of my super squad women. You've told us a bit about doing the family constellations and things like that. Is that it is part of this breaking cycles and healing generational trauma?
Yeah,
How does it work?
yeah,
Because
the family.
I know a little bit about it, but not enough to even speak about educated.
Well, from a fortunate place because I've always had energetic experiences. And when I say that, from an early age, I used to have out of body experiences, and I recognised that I wasn't just a flesh human, I was a spirit as well. And it fitted fine in the Catholic Church because it was like, the spirit. But it's an energy, we're energetic bodies, right? Now, the energy never dies, but our body will die. So I understood that at that separation. So for me, stepping into family constellations, it's very similar, because that energy that doesn't die, your ancestors haven't gone anywhere. They're there in an energetic form. The constellation allows you to, with loving intention always, and what is of the highest good for the whole family system, for you to step into the place of an ancestor and energetically feel what it feels like for them. And in that, there is you will be communicating with another person to create unity and balance, so that family member is seen and acknowledged and heard, and the emotions expressed, so that the love can flow through you into your family members, like daughter, son. So it follows that the system is run on age. So
Right.
everybody who came after me, I'm the big one and they're the little ones. My children are the little ones. So I pass love to them. Now, I couldn't pass all my love to my children because I was blocked through this abandonment. So when I have stood in other energies, like my mother's and my absent father, all I can explain it as a void of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
An unavailable father is unavailable because he's unavailable for his emotions. There's no emotions there. And it isn't until there's a dialogue between the other family member, and there is a being seen and acknowledged, and really acknowledge that you could only do as much as you could do due to the family system behind you. Then there is the process of handing back what isn't yours, the trauma that isn't yours in the family system, and bringing forward the gift and resource. So my gift is that I can love beyond. I can love no matter who you are. I can offer a very safe space, loving space, or it doesn't matter how many you are, I can do it in audiences. That's my gift. My gift is love. But then it's great for others. I had to learn to pass maternal love through to my children through family constellations. I did this because I didn't have maternal love, because that was what my mum couldn't offer me because of her trauma. And it offers that space, but it's actually quite interesting. It's more like a dialogue between two family members, where you are having it's called healing movements. There's healing movements and healing sentences that help to neutralize the trauma, so that there is a loving connection between those two members. It's a bit like dot to dot, if you think about it.
Right.
We're all connected to each other by a dot to dot system. And if you could imagine, through you right now is a 1,000 gold threads that carry all the love through you, right? 1,000 gold threads. If you haven't been fully loved by your mum or your dad, say from your mum's side you've got 500, maybe if it's 1,000, maybe your dad's is 500, though the love won't flow through those golden threads. It's blocked, literally blocked. Does that make sense? It sounds like a
It makes
long-winded
no,
answer
it
to
makes
you.
it makes total sense. I'm just sitting here going, shit, no, I really need to come see you, Janet. And so,
Yeah. Well, the more I can look into this, Ash, is that most people don't recognise that they've got a blocked love because they've never known any difference. If you're unavailable, it means you only know how to be unavailable because a parent hasn't offered you love. The love hasn't flowed through them. That's why it's crucial to try and unblock the love flow. You can do it
yeah,
in lots of different ways. It isn't just family constellations. You can do it energetically. You see, the love doesn't come to your heart. It stays, the energy stays in your survival centers, which are based from your solar plexus down, because you're trying
right.
to keep safe. It's not safe to love. So the love doesn't flow through your heart and through your energetic body.
Interesting. So it kind of, you're stuck in this sort of survival mode instead of thriving
Yes,
onward. Yeah, that
yes.
makes total sense. My other question, do you need to know the story of what happened in the past? Like, you know that
Um,
you had abandonment from your parents and unavailable father, and but what if you didn't know where it stemmed from?
Well, that's where the constellation work comes in, because a lot of people don't know what's happened because they don't know the great grandparents. They might
Right.
have heard stories, or like me, I've got no idea really,
Yeah.
because I know a little bit about my Irish family because we did connect, but I don't know about the traumas. So what can happen is that you can stand in the place of any family member and energetically feel them. I mean, it sounds weird, but it is doable. And I can do it with anybody, but then I can be in anybody's energetic body, no matter in the world, because I'm trained to do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
to step in their energy, and I can read their energy with their permission, only for the highest good of them. If you're looking to find out what your purpose is, give me a little bit of time, and I can unravel that your highest purpose. That's another thing I can do, but that's stepping into someone's energy. Now, anybody can do that in the constellation, and I know it can feel a bit, good God, that's a bit freaky, isn't it? It's not freaky because we're energetic beings,
Yeah.
and that's how a lot of what we can't see between us is all energy. There's frequencies and energy passing all the time. And that's why some people go, when you're with someone and you just don't feel, there's feeling that you can't put your finger on. You might feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You can feel people's energy field. Everybody has a field around them, and what people don't realize is that you and we are a representation in the voices and the fragments of energy of everybody who's come before us.
Yeah.
So, when I say 1,000 threads, it could be 1,000 threads. If you've had injustice in your family system, you in this lifetime could be, end up working for the police because you've got something about you where you feel you need to do justice. But it might not have happened in your life. It could have happened in a previous generational life.
Right. That makes so
So
much
you're all,
sense.
the energy field is always in the family system seeking balance, always seeking balance. Now, the greatest thing I've learnt recently is, because I've come from a fixer doer standpoint, is trying to fix and do what comes up in the energy field. I'm not now, which is a masculine push forward and fix. I don't now. I step back and I allow the energy system to create a level of resolution to the highest level of balance. So I step out of the way of myself. So when something sort of blows up, which has recently in my family system, I have really learned to step back, let it settle, and then step in where I feel that that I might make use in supporting. And that's massive, that, because beforehand I'd be pushing to fix everything, and actually, who am I in compared to universal energy? I am not that. I may be part of the intelligent love, but I am not the ultimate intelligent love and loving energy that will say this is going to happen. Not like some God. What I am is somebody who's representing a family system here on earth with a mission to offer some of the things I've learnt to parents in particular, to professional parents, and also what we don't talk about that much really is parenting ourselves. And that is where the constellation work comes in, because it helps you to parent yourself and create a compassionate voice of the parent to nurture yourself at times of crisis, which no matter who you are going to come across at times of crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. I am lucky I have my mom still. So right now, she'll give me those nice parenting voices moments. But even so,
Mm,
we need to be able to do that for ourselves, and so that
mm,
we can keep taking care of ourselves and, pushing through when things are very, very difficult. It's,
mm.
yeah, I think if we're not doing that, then it can really set you up for major disappointment in the future.
Yeah. Well, life isn't easy, and I'm not sure it's meant to be easy. Um, it's about having that level of resilience, the tools for resilience, of which I think when we go to school, and I can talk from being a teacher, I taught a lot of things, but I don't think they were all very relevant,
Right.
to actually surviving life and really surviving life, because there wasn't that much put into emotional regulation and emotional intelligence. There wasn't that much put in conflict resolution,
No,
you see.
if we had all those skills, yeah, I think as society, we'd all be so much better off. It's,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
So you
it's
can see
basic
how the
building blocks.
education, what they are, and you only realise that later on in life, that actually that would have been really useful to have some practical tools to guide you at times where you're at your lowest point,
Yeah.
or you're managing a family situation that is a crisis point. Say you have a member of your family who is affected by addiction or compulsion. How do you support that family member? Do you cast them aside? Because a lot of people who have addictions, it's like the modern day leper. Somebody is
Yeah.
an alcoholic, and you're the modern day leper. They didn't ask to be an alcoholic. They didn't ask that. That's happened. You see. Now how do you help that family member?
And that one's really, really difficult. I lost my best friend 7 years ago to addiction. And,
Mm,
but it is very interesting how you're totally right. They're just kind of left out like a lost cause, and it's so much more complex than, yeah, they just decided to be that way. It's wild, and people forget that it can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter your class, it
mm.
doesn't matter what gender you are, your color of your skin, how much money you have. It can happen to anybody. Yeah. I think too, people, because they do feel so out of their realm, when if they come across that in their family, then they do just kind of go, okay, well, you're on your own in a way.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you can understand that, Ash,
Yeah.
because often they've caused destruction in the family. They've caused the ripples of a particular. I mean, for any addiction, the ripples are horrendous for the rest of the family members,
Yeah.
and then people get sick of it, and then they move away. There needs to be one person who can stay to be the strong point in it. One person to say, "I still love you no matter what,"
Yeah.
and to hold that level of resilience so that they can have the choice it's a choice of life or death, as you've just said, that some people, it's so hard and difficult that they choose the death because it is so hard. It's not, and people don't realize until they've been in these situations or had family members or friends who've experienced this. The choices are taken away, and they're so angry because that they've got the addiction's got a grip of them.
Yeah.
So they don't have the power. They can't go into the heart because they feel the heart's being shattered into pieces.
Yeah, that theirs has been, and everybody around him has been. My friend, she ended up moving away because she tried to find space and, just deal with it on her own. But it didn't work. Like, I can't remember exactly how long, but it was maybe about 8 months after she left, she had passed away. They found her in her apartment. But I mean, it was devastating.
Yeah.
Completely devastating for everybody that knew her. Uh,
Mm,
I think about her, a lot.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and how do you figure out who can be that one resilient person to stand by their side no matter what?
It's a matter of wanting to be the resilient one. There needs to be a resilient family member who isn't going to judge them, who is going to be able to be prepared to support and actually I'll tell you what they do need to do is let that person go to the lowest point, because that, if you are an addict, they have to want to come out of the addiction themselves. They have to want to do it. You can't make them or tell them, you can, and even moving away, like you said, it doesn't move them away from what's going on in the thought patterns in the head, or how the body is reacting to how they feel about themselves. Because most alcoholics addiction, they'll be angry people because they're so angry that they can't stop themselves. They
Yeah.
have to want to do it. So the one family member, see, that family member might be a family, as in a group supported work, because group work works really well, but they have to be ready for it, But it's so that's why I think a lot of my work is about parental resilience. It's a resilience not to cast away, because actually the system, our system, unless you've got about £4,000 or whatever to go into rehab, there's nothing much out there
Yeah.
really to support people with a level of compassion that they need, but not to enable them by being not to enable them by being a little bit too, let's explain how this is not to, not to overhelp them. They've got to
Yeah.
help themselves. That's the key, is because they'll be a dependent, you see. They'll be dependent on everybody, to live their life for them, because it's really hard for them to live their own life. And the most compassionate thing you can do actually is to step back and say, when you're ready, I'm here. When you're ready for help, when you want help, how can I help you? But not to say it like over and over and over again. It's just to say it and let it happen. Let it happen. And that's
Yeah.
where the resilience comes in, because you've got to be resilient. Not that the resilience is the boundary of not helping them when other people might continue to help them, and what you're doing is you're enabling them.
Yeah.
So it's allowing them and the power, their own internal power, to generate, to really want it. And when you really want it, then that's the first step into sobriety, into a new lease of life, into a life which actually, if you step into that and you've overcome that'll be elevated living once you've stepped into that and sort of gone on that path.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. I was curious, what do you think about, I think that's on here. What about, like, I just want to know your thoughts about shows like Intervention and things like that. Because I've seen a few people that I've known had family members go on that show, and it's kind of mixed results, which is fair enough.
Which shows that, Ash?
Intervention. I
I,
don't
I've
know
not
if
I've
that's
not
a thing
seen it.
over here.
No.
It's like, so if you have a family member, say, with any kind of addiction, and then basically they kind of trap the person in a room and they're like, we love you, we're here for you, we're going to get you into rehab. And, usually the people will be like, yeah, okay, like, let's do this. And so they kind of go to this boot camp uh, rehab, and then they come out later. And it's just really, it's an interesting show. I find it actually very difficult to watch. I've only seen a couple episodes
Mm,
because I just can't. But it's yeah.
mm.
I wonder about things like that all the time.
Well, you see, if you're telling someone they need to go into rehab, who's making the choices?
Yeah. Yep.
Again, that they've had the power and the choices taken away, unless they're fully willing. And anything, I would say, which is publicised and recorded, a little bit like porn, really. It's not really realistic, is it? Because it's part of a performance if you know that you're being filmed.
Yeah. That's so true. I never thought
I
about it
mean,
that way, but it's so true.
and so you're not really fully being yourself. You're not really fully going through it. You're not really saying the words that you want to say because you're always considering that other people are looking at you, and it's a natural urge to consider how people are going to judge you.
That's very true.
And that's massive because we all have the critical what's such a body going to think at the side of us. So some of us more than others. I generated a great self-critic, which I'm better with now because I've gone onto what I call live stream, whereas I say what I think I aim for the majority of my time. It gets me into bother. That's why I now have to work for myself because I won't fit in anywhere else, right? Because I don't fit in. I don't fit into education. I don't fully fit into therapy because I don't think just talking about your stories. A lot of therapy is just about talking about your stories. What are you talking about your story for again? Are you not triggering the chemical emotions, the chemical, in your body to go back into the trauma? That's not what I'm here for. So it's
Yep.
not just about retelling the story. It's about doing it in using different, alternative methods and more holistic, more looking at every aspect of your personal well-being and your relational well-being. In your spiritual, your physical, your mental, your emotional, your ancestral, your cultural, your social, it's everything around there. Your sexual. Here's another one that people don't consider. Your sexual health and well-being. How important that is, and it's minimalistically taught in education for young people. And then the next minute, they're 16, right? Go on, off you go now. You can have sex. Well, I'll tell you what, they're all educated through porn because
Yeah.
no teacher is really going to say to those children the key things that children need to know about porn. The longer you're looking at porn, you're in survival. You're in
Yeah.
mating survival mode when you're looking at porn. And some young people have never masturbated without a screen in front of them. Now, unless they're going to marry a screen, you see,
Then you're going to be in a little bit of trouble there.
well, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because this is where the compulsion and the addiction will come in, because what will happen is they will become dependent on the screen and not to be able to, and also it's linked to not wanting to be rejected.
Yeah.
That you won't want, maybe some men I've worked with have really struggled with rejection. They won't want to seek out relationships because they get everything they think they need in a screen. Now, ultimately, you're going to end up lonely.
Yeah. Extremely. Do you
But I
think?
don't think they're teaching that.
No, they're definitely not, because some of it is like, oh, we're not allowed to talk about things like that in school. Blasphemous. But it was interesting though, because I obviously I think I've been in other podcast episodes here, even I've talked about we have still a long way to go with sex education in school. But when I compare what it is here to what it is in Canada, I'm blown away how much better it is here. It's
Mm,
it's shocking, even just talking about relationships and what consent is, and that you can have different kinds of relationships. They talk about that here, and they even start young, talking about like hugs and things like that. You can say no to being hugged, which I think is very important. And
yeah, yeah, very.
but in Canada, it's just kind of like you're going to go through puberty. This is what's going to happen to your body. And then one day you'll
Mm,
have sex. And that's basically it. This is how a baby is born and how babies are made.
mm,
And it's truly about it. Maybe a little bit about
mm,
STIs, and yeah. There's a lot of work to be done to overhaul it for everybody.
mm,
It's but and I think I've also always been one of those parents that I've always talked about it with my son too. You know, age appropriate kind of way, talking even like things like hugging, and no, you don't have to kiss all your family members or even
mm,
hug them. You don't have to hold hands with people. You're allowed to say no to things. And, we talk about stuff like that and being respectful of other people's boundaries. We've talked about that always. And so, but there's so much. I don't know. And then the porn,
Well, there is
that's
so
definitely
much
never
because,
talked about.
well, I mean, one reason is that a lot of people are watching porn, you see, so it's really difficult for some parents to talk about it because they could maybe looking at it themselves, and also it's a bit shameful. I would really love to see sexology on the curriculum so that people, or some sort of psychosexual studies, so they could actually understand. I mean, to me, porn and sex is and having those conversations is one of the fastest ways to evolve, because it's your frontal cortex which has intimacy, and that's what distinguishes us to other mammals, is that we're intimate beings. We can get close, we can have that feeling of connection and closeness. And if you can have some intimate conversations about you sharing your emotions, well, that creates a closer connection. Whereas the intimacy with sex it's very low level, because you can have sex without any emotions, you see. It's very easy to do that. Um, but if you've got enough so if you are having the conversations, you are always using your frontal cortex of your brain, which means your brain's growing, which it means it's adapting to the environment, it's adapting to the emotional conversations, and you're not being rejected. It's an intervention that I use. I call it cringe cafe. To if a couple are struggling with a conversation, we say, right, let's get to cringe cafe. Let's talk the cringe. Let's do it informally, and then it's done in a safe space, that's agreeable, safe space to have those conversations. It's a couple, it could be a parent and child, it could be anybody who you could have those conversations with. But yeah, there's a lot in there that would be useful to be taught, but sex in itself is a bit secretive and a bit shameful for people, so it's often an issue. It used to be an issue for me too, but from sexual mute to sex talk enthusiast, that's actually where I've sort of brought myself to. So I'm okay talking about it and facilitating conversations about sex, because I know that the value is in fast track evolution,
Yeah.
because that's where the option is, because there's two ways of being. You're either in mating or you're in dating. So if you're in a relationship where you're mating, the predominant connection will be sex, which men need, by the way, because that's a very important part of their connection, through the oxytocin and the trust and the connection chemicals.
Yeah.
However, for long-term success, it needs to be more like a dating, ongoing dating. So you connected through friendships, through laughter, through higher level of sex in your sexual greatness, so that's more like dating, long-term dating, than the mating. There's two, and the dating scene, the speed dating and all those sorts of things, generally that's just mating.
Okay.
But really, we're very basic if you think about it. Humans are
Yeah.
quite basic. We're very similar to how we were in many ways years ago.
Yeah.
We're very sort of like in a predator prey state, but it's stepping up and being a bit, do you really want to be predator prey? Do you want to behave like people have behaved 1,000 years ago in the mating scene, mating everybody, or needing to have sex for validation, which some people do, and that's okay. If that's where they're at, that's okay. They might not even understand they're doing that. I don't feel wanted if he doesn't want to have sex with me on the first date. There's a
Yeah.
lot in that, but the alternative is more like an ongoing dating. So dating is for life, not just for when you're courting each other.
Yeah.
So they
That makes
probably
so
don't
much
give you. They
sense.
don't probably don't. I mean, I I've spent a lot of time on all these areas, so I know the value of it, of having a relationship that will last as long as it's meant to last. It could be a page in your life. It could be a chapter of your life. It could be the book in your life,
Yeah.
or that person you could change over time. And Esther Perel talks about this. She says she's had four different marriages, but with the same man. They've
Right.
changed as they've evolved together. It's a beautiful way to actually look at it. However, you can have all the dating advice in the world. If energetically in your energy field, which happens all the time, you need to evolve, someone will arrive in your field to help you to evolve. And it might not be very pleasant, because if you have a pattern to resolve, like, say an unemotional, if you're seeking validation from a father figure, you will continually meet unavailable men for you to direct the love back to yourself, to develop your own inner father figure, right? And it doesn't matter. That's what's going to happen in the energy field. So all the dating advice doesn't mean anything. We are primed to evolve. The energy field just wants us to grow and seek balance. And to seek balance for our highest authenticity is often by the arrival of somebody who you think is going to be great, but actually it turns out to be a nightmare because they're unavailable like everybody else that they've met before them. And that's
Totally.
hard. I've been there, I've done it,
Yeah.
seen it, I've worked with it,
And
and
that's
if the energy says that's what's going to happen, that's happening.
and then that kind of just proves that if we're working on ourselves and doing the healing, that's how we're going to get everything better. It was kind of
Yeah, but
interesting. I just said to my boyfriend the other day, we were talking, and I was like, you know what? I actually said to him, I must have done some good healing and realization just from the fact that he's the first non-alcoholic person that I have been with.
mm, mm,
Not
mm,
a Doesn't use drugs or doesn't
mm,
drink at all. I drink. Oops. I have my gin at night, but he doesn't drink at all. And I thought about how destructive that was in past
yeah,
relationships, and then I just realized that just the other day. I was like, yeah, no, you don't drink. That's amazing. And so
yeah. Well,
it's
you
something.
probably have that dependency in your family system somewhere, where for you to grow, you needed to decide yourself, in whatever way you've done it, being the witness of yourself and your behaviour, that you've decided to choose someone who doesn't have those same traits that you've
Hmm.
chosen before. And to recognise it now is a sign that you have evolved and you have grown past that.
One thing down. It's like, I don't know. I think I told you too in our group that, yeah, I've been for the last 3 years therapy off and on. I went through Sarek, and I did my stuff at Changing Pathways, and then I've had other therapists and a couple. Yeah, I guess it's been a couple months now that I broke up with my therapist because I wasn't getting anything from that relationship anymore. And
Mm.
it was, I felt like, I'm sure, pardon me, at some point I will probably be back with another therapist, but for the time being I feel like I'm pretty good. And she was, remember, I was telling you, she seemed quite upset about it, but I think it was the right decision to
Yeah.
call it quits for now.
Well, you know yourself. You see, if it's more like a chat, what are you there for? You want there's a the thing is with some therapists, counsellors, etc. They'll listen to the story and continue to listen to the story, and actually, there's no need to do that. You see, I could probably, and I mean, I've had this with clients. I've said within the first 5 minutes certain things, and said, "Hold on, how do you know that?" I said, "Because these are patterns, and I'm going to give you all the knowledge that I know." Right, like you've been parented early, blah blah blah, this sort of stuff, and they're like, "Well, I just know that. You don't need to tell me a lot of stories. You might want to talk about a story, and that's okay, but let's gain the wisdom from this point forward, so you can be your own therapist in a way, and make decisions based on the knowledge that you're going to receive." And the willingness for you to go forward. But what I heard from you saying there is that you stepped out of dependency, because often a client can become dependent on the therapist to fix them and sort them, and to go back and to help them resolve, when actually you're the only one who can do it. So stepping away is a sign that you are more independent. And ultimately then it's to move to being interdependent, so you have various people who you can rely on, and not one person. It needs to be like if you
Yeah.
think about a network to give you the foundation for your living, so you have plenty of places to go to support you, different friends for different things, could meet a different need in your life.
Yeah. uh, and
Mm.
that's it. I've been working also on expanding my web, basically, just to have new people in my life, and new knowledge and new perspectives. I'm all about community and
Mm.
just how we can all make each other better. And it's nice to be building those kind of things now.
Yeah, well, that is the foundation of living, is community and belonging. And in family constellations in itself, the one key thing is the feeling of belonging, that everybody belongs. Everybody belongs, no matter what, into a family system, no matter who you are or what you've done, you belong. Because people don't just become murderers, people don't just become abusers. Something has happened in their family system which will have made it that they couldn't have acted any other way than how they did in that moment of time. So, but and then they can be like, or in that addiction, whatever it is. So, but they're cast out of the family system, you see, and what that creates, that exclusion, where everybody then moves around that person energetically, or if the trauma, the same thing, everybody moves around instead of seeing them in the family system and acknowledging them for just being an energetic part of the system. It's not about forgiving them or anything like that. It's about offering them the space in the family system as another energetic essence of the system itself, because they're only acting from whatever's gone on in their generational line. And the more you ignore what's gone on, the more it's going to replicate. You see, this is the thing. This is the ending. The new story is looking at what's gone on in your past, and actively thinking, how's this playing out for me in my life right now? I'm very conscious. In what way am I presenting abandonment in my life now? I don't present it, you see, because I'm mindful. I am the witness of myself all the time in my behaviours. I'm more for inclusion. But you can also abandon yourself. So when you
Yeah.
have these traits that go through, you can abandon yourself. You're not care for yourself. You've abandoned yourself.
Yeah. I was just thinking too, can you, if it's something that, so you've got everything from your past lines in the family, if there's certain things that have happened to you in your life, can you do kind of family constellation work now and heal that before it goes forward to the to anybody who comes next?
Yeah, I think that's the aim of family constellations is, or to do any energetic work, is to increase that love flow. So the love flows to your family members who are younger than you, if you've got children, etc. But
Yeah.
it'll affect all your relationships. The more loving you are, the more accepting you are of people. And even if they're weird or wonky or they say something daft or they insult you, right? Well, there's always a reason for behaviour. I learned that as a child counsellor. There's always reason for behaviour. Children play it out metaphorically. Adults play it out metaphorically. There's always a reason. And as you build up that your ability to be loving and loving of yourself and your ability to parent yourself, because ultimately relationships we get into, the main purpose of a relationship is to end childhood. So what wasn't met in childhood comes into your relationships. So you'll end up either repeatedly getting in a relationship with your father or repeatedly getting in a relationship with your mother until you have made peace with those relationships. Now that is the purpose of constellations, is to make peace with those relationships. And yes, it's really useful if you get informed about what it is that's in your family system, because that's a starting point, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. My goodness. I feel like, honestly, you've just given me all these things to think about. And now my universe has
Yeah.
grown bigger today.
Yeah, well, oh, I mean, well, thank you. I mean, it is. I said the value of stewardship is for me to offer that to other people so that they can be more compassionate with themselves to their own behaviour and to generate the compassion towards others who might be irritating them. And it's all about balance. It's okay to get cheesed off with someone and tell them,
Yeah.
right? But if you want to be balanced about it, it's about saying what you might resent about it, owning what's yours, what is it about you, what's your part to play in it, and also to see that in everything there's an advantage and a disadvantage. Like in trauma, there's always an advantage. We wouldn't be who we are unless we had suffering and trauma.
Yeah.
That's where the treasures are. The treasures are in the suffering and the trauma,
I
right?
think
And not
I agree.
enough is done to promote that. It's all, oh, trauma. Oh, God, trauma. We don't want trauma. Hold on a second. I wouldn't be here today as I am if I didn't have the trauma that I've had. That's where my treasure is. You don't
Yes.
have to relive the trauma, but how's about I wear the treasures? I wear the treasure in my heart. I wear my treasure as a cape of wisdom, which is offering it to other people. We're here as a community, and like you said, it's a community. Why have these treasures and not share them with other people and reach out a hand of friendship and say, yeah, fair enough. I don't know where you're coming from. You couldn't have acted any other way, but I apologise maybe for my part or whatever. It's rupture repair in attachment theory. It's about the ruptures. I had a massive rupture because I was handed away at birth to somebody who I didn't know, basically. So I've been
Yeah.
seeking my mother for years, right? But that was a rupture. I have done everything in my capacity to repair that once I found out. And that meant that the whole of my family system had to be shook. People hated on me, people resented me because they were in trauma. They had addictions are very common when you've been abandoned. I've had to repair all those relationships,
Yeah.
right? So that's a massive step for any parent to set. Like I said to my children, when I found out, I said, look, I said, I've abandoned you. I mean, I put my work before them many times. By God, I'll never do that now, ever, never.
Yeah.
So I now am a far better mother, but I could only do it when I knew, knew. and I had tools of resilience myself. And the tool of resilience is when a child doesn't like you and resents you for something, and that's a painful place to be, is not to take it personally, to understand that they are going through their own process of understanding and acceptance. It's their growth.
Yeah. that that definitely, it makes sense. It is. God. I feel like I always have things to say, but right now I'm just like, right. Yes. I just went, yes, Janet, correct again.
Well, I mean, it's this is what I've learnt. I try not to say anything's right or wrong, because right in this moment it's due to my level of ignorance, my level of knowledge, but that also has that I have ignorance with it. Now, I have worked tirelessly to educate myself, to learn, which the recent one was the family constellations of the intergenerational trauma and how that's passed down, and stepping into energy to resolve it in the family system.
Yeah.
That to me is a more holistic view of everything. It's taken me 7 years of full on study since I was 50. 7 years of full on study in this next profession, which I'm in. Well, I mean, I started studying, I guess, in 2015, so I'll be coming up to 10 years, but it's full on study through therapy to understand what happened to me.
Yeah.
And I'm now not, I said that was going to be my last course. I don't want to do any courses. I want to offer this out to people so that they've actually got an idea of how they can create a new family story, how they can break the family cycles, and to create resilience and the compassionate side for themselves as their own parents, in equal balance, of course, being, of course, a king and a queen at the same time ourselves.
Yeah. If somebody was listening to this and decided, okay, it's time for me to start healing this generational trauma, what advice would you give them to get started?
Well, I guess to get started is, if they know if they've got parents or grandparents are alive, is have some conversations and find out what has gone on in the past. What is it? What could they be carrying forward? It often skips a generation, you see. I mean, it can go further back than that, but it often skips a generation. So the traumas that were, for me, would be my grandmother's traumas, would
Right.
could be likely to live through me. Ask some questions of the family system. Find out a little bit about what's gone on in your own life. Be reflective upon yourself. Self-awareness is the greatest thing that you can develop yourself, is to become aware of what you're doing yourself. And to be curious about it. Say, why am I behaving like this? Why is it that I do something and then I abandon it? You might have abandonment. So why is it I keep getting involved in the same types of guys? What is it, about me? What is it that a cycle that I'm running? Any patterns? And then find somebody to have a conversation with, who is knowledgeable in, who has a broad perspective around therapy and the coaching or whatever. Don't go to somebody that maybe is just specifically in one area, because I think when you're very specific, you're ignoring, we're whole beings, you see. You're ignoring the whole perspective of you.
Yeah. And I think that's it too, big picture, because it's so easy to just, you're right, just narrow down, pinpoint on one thing, but forgetting about all the other little pieces that influence and shape us on a
Yeah,
whole.
it's an energetic web. That's what it is. It's an energetic web.
Yeah.
And we're all connected. And in your own family system, there will be some things that have happened that will be so waiting to be balanced in the system. It's all about balance, you see,
Yeah.
all about balance.
And it'll bring back a little harmony to your life and
Yeah,
everybody else,
yeah,
really.
balance and harmony and inner peace. I mean, who doesn't really want that?
It's true.
Well, I mean, some people might not. They might be addicted to, the chemicals. You see, the chemicals of, if you've been brought into the world and you felt unsafe, that's going to be your sense of love, being unsafe, because that's what love was modeled for you as a young child.
And then that would give you another thing to heal.
Absolutely, it's healing. It's getting maybe in a group, or a safe group, or it's developing a level of understanding of safety, your own safety. I've worked with clients who don't get their own. They just recognised they've never felt safe anyway, because the parents could have been an alcoholic, or lots of arguments. They've felt unsafe, and it's not until that they've come to work with me that they've thought, oh right, okay, maybe I'm not feeling safe. And that's the first thing in any relationship, is to feel safe. But then if you keep getting in and out of relationships and not feeling safe, it might indicate that your childhood in some aspect was unsafe. So you're drawn to the chemicals that's released when you feel unsafe. And that is a familiar feeling. You go back to what's familiar, the familiarity of arguments, the
Yeah.
familiarity of feeling rejected.
Yeah. And then we need to realize just how good we can actually feel.
Yeah, my God, yeah, and there's always, you can always elevate yourself more to feel more good, and there's loads of different ways to do it. It needs to resonate with yourself. If you like to meditate, meditate. If you like to dance, dance. If you like to sing, sing. If you like to
Yeah.
run, run. But no, no, that's why it's not like a doctor's prescription. It's like, what is it that you love that elevates you? What
Yeah.
is it that makes your heart sing? If you listen to your heart, what does your heart say?
And then you have to open yourself to listen to your heart too.
Yeah. Well,
God,
do
that's
you
a
know,
whole other thing.
we're not trained, Ash, for that even. We're
No,
not trained to
no.
be in our heart, but our heart lets out a frequency, and it is our heart that tells our brain that we're safe. Nothing else. It's the frequency from our heart.
Yeah.
So and so they're the things that I love doing, is sort of being in that heart space. And you see, because I've come from a place of unsafety, not knowing it, thinking I was the most loving person in the world. I was to all the children, but I wouldn't allow myself to get close to anybody else, because just in case, unconsciously, I was thinking they're going to abandon me, they're going to leave me. And there's no way I'm creating safe bonds with these people, because they might leave me. And that's what I've lived up to about 50 thinking. But what it did do is, the gift there was that the love that I can give to others is above and beyond, because of my sense of being unloved.
Yeah. I think, and you're right about how those senses, how it becomes your superpower, it becomes your
Yeah.
strength, your treasure. I mean, it's different, but I've talked about that a lot too. Just losing my brother when I was 7. I lost him to suicide, and it has certainly shaped me and how I
Mm,
care for people and how I view the world. And it's helped me help a lot of other people who have experienced
mm,
someone close to them lost by suicide. And
mm.
so I do see these threads no matter where I go, or who it is. We all have that pain that has given us a little something special to help others. Mhm.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing to sort of acknowledge in yourself, is that due to that loss, there is always a gain, and the gain is your sense of connection and community and care, and that the
Yeah.
way you do care for people at a high level, that would not have happened unless you had had that early experience of suicide,
Yeah.
which is another
Absolutely.
thing that people don't want to talk about.
Nope.
And how difficult is that for the whole family, not to have like that exclusion. And
Yeah.
actually, it's an honoring. Your part of your life, I can hear, is an honoring of that, and to be
Yeah.
able to give that thread of love to other people, no matter what, is an honor that that there's always the presence, that loving presence.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
Janet, if people want to come and talk to you or find you online, where is the best place to find you?
Well, the best place at the moment is I just have a little Linktree link at the minute because I've I have given myself December to step out of everything I do and to come back into the world in January as version for the next phase of my career and my life. So that is what I've been doing, is to honouring myself and everything that I've gone through in the past few years, we can say, to step out of it. So everything is being revamped. So they can contact me through my link, which I will give to you to pop in the show notes. But I have just decided to step back, honour myself and everything that has happened to me in the past few years with a transition. So I'm going through a little bit of a transition and then opening up again in January for. And they can listen to my podcast as well, Ash.
Yes.
As
We're going to
well. My
link that
podcast is
podcast.
on, Apple and Spotify, etc., as Taboo to talked about, with the two being a number two. And that really is about my work on sex and sexuality and having conversations and a support for parents or adults or and men as well. I do work a lot with men. I champion men as much as I do women, just the same in equal proportions. I'm very careful not to step into anything that's all of anything, because then you're always leaving. I don't want to ever leave the feminine or the masculine out. So I've got balance all the time. There's something about me and balance and inclusion that I can't get out of my system. So yeah.
I think that's okay, though.
Yeah, I think that's okay, but I'm recognizing maybe it's always been in me, but there's something about balance and inclusion that is right at the forefront of everything for me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
No matter who you are, whatever sexual orientation or gender identity, that means nothing to me. All labels. All that I know is everybody is an energetic being and a beautiful rhythm of masculine and feminine energy, which is our push-pull energies. And that's how I receive people, through their energy. I don't receive them as a human, if that makes sense. I do, but the
Yes.
energy I receive, I meet in energetic terms first. It's so yeah. I meet with the rhythm and the energetic signature of the person.
I absolutely love that. Well, thank you again so much for being here today, Janet. I appreciate it so much. And I know you've given me lots to think about. And I'm sure you have given everybody a lot to think about. So thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks for everything that you do and the way that you are, and your gentle heart. And you are living proof that trauma has treasures,
Yes.
and that you're willingly ready to offer those treasures from your heart.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not going to cry. Not going to cry. But thank you, Janet. And we will talk to
Okay,
you soon. Thank you.
we'll talk
Bye.
soon. Love you.
Love you. Bye.